Tech cocktail sessions, educational and inspirational talks from experienced startup founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders.
So the big thing I want to get out of this is kind of the why. Like, what have I learned going from this first venture, which kind of explosively grew, which at the time, like, there was no Facebook to look at. Like, going from 0 to a billion, no one even talked in billions really on the internet. And then kind of starting over again, leaving that and doing the next thing. So I started in 2004. If we remember the internet in 2004, who was alive in 2004 out here? Okay, there's a lot of really young people here. Are you even, okay. So anyone who's not raising your hand, why are you not raising your hand? No, I'm just kidding. So in 2004, let's remember, there were 50 million websites, like domains. It's really small. Google was the #5 website. Britney Spears was a top search term. Britney Spears. Pamela Anderson was #4. So the internet was like kind of a small place. AOL was really cool. We had buddy lists. Friendster and Orkut were competing online, and there's like all these. The Guardian was telling us, or no, I'm sorry, not the Guardian. I think it was Dictionary.com said that blog was the word of the year. That was 2004. So we started in 2004. We went out there, and we said we had a mission. And it was crazy. We came out of Carnegie Mellon and we said, we think we want to build this semantic web thing. And how all your eyes just glossed over, and I can barely even see them. It was just reflective. We still don't know what that is. And it's kind of crazy. But we thought the world, the web, and everything in it should be able to talk to each other. Like, you should be able to take one thing from one site and share it to another, and they should be able to communicate somehow. And no one did this. Everyone had like their silo with their animated GIF, and they were like, look, I got an animated GIF of a brain on my website. It's super cool. Look at my forum in GeoCities. It was awesome, right? Like, we had awesome stuff at the time. We're basically going backwards and building that with GIFs again, which is so cool. So if you have an app for that, it's probably worth $2 billion. Anyway, so we went out, and one of the best stories that I always remember, just kind of reminding anyone who has like something that's kind of seems crazy at the time, that like it's not necessarily a bad idea, it's just not validated yet. We went into a very large company. I can't say the name. If you ask me afterwards, I will, but I can't say it on camera. And to like a head VP-ish, sort of an SVP of media, who's still very large in the space. And we're sitting there, and we're telling them the story about like how cool would the web be if you could grow from one website and share something to another website, and then you could build like feeds of stuff, like people could personalize the whole web. And they were like, we own this content. Why would we ever let anyone have it? That's ours. Like, why would we put it on your site? That's the stupidest thing we've ever heard. Everyone, like, you guys are smart kids, like, use it for something else, like, go build something else. Like, you guys are crazy. And he like literally put his arm on our shoulders like a father. Was like, you guys, like, you're going into war and you don't understand. You're not gonna make it. And I'm like, okay. So like, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. And we were like, yeah, we could do this. So we did. And we didn't actually go in the semantic web direction. We kind of were like, okay, the world is pages. We need to break it into a way of sharing them. So we started making this page sharing solution. And within like releasing it, like I think it was in October, we released it. We started signing on the NBA, the NFL. We had every player in the world and every sport kind of having their own little widgets. They were called like little, if you remember MySpace in those days, they were everywhere. You could personalize all your pages. A lot of those were us. And there was like companies using us as a wrapper. So we grew pretty quickly, and that basically, we exploded. And at that point, like, the company grew, we got funded, we moved out to, had moved to DC, and as the story goes, we kind of exploded, got a new office, all this fun stuff happened, and we hit the point now where like I started specializing and taking on analytics and like looking at all this data. And all I kept seeing was like, in all this, is there's a new problem that we made. All these people are sharing stuff, right? And it's very hard now, like we just created a really noisy place on the internet. Like it's very hard to be heard by anyone anymore. And as I kept like doing all the work, I was looking at like all the analytics I was working on, then we worked with advertisers, figuring out how to get their voice out. And our goal was like, let's find the people who actually want to hear them. That was how I motivated myself. That's how we motivated the team. And like through all these changes in the company, where we went from like this semantic web company to a page sharing company that's on 15 million sites running, I don't know, like 15 billion kind of events a day. And then onto like effectively an advertising company, which is kind of what we are today, on top of this platform, we had one company and one group of people. And kind of one of the biggest things that you come out of that with is how do you actually keep people on the same train? And this isn't tactically, like how do you keep a product on the same path as everywhere else? It's the real hard thing is how do you keep everyone excited about it? Like how do you get someone who came on because they really believe that like they were democratizing the world. Like that's what we believed. We came in here and we were like, everyone in the world can do what we're doing. They can all share and like take anything from anywhere and make their own content, and this is so great, and now like anyone can go viral, and that's not what happened. And we were trying to figure out like how do we, like that's not what we like became. There was all these networks that came up and this whole world came up and we were no longer in that position. So keeping that mission was so important to us. And going from being like semantic web, that was initially, to then saying we are going to be the easiest way for people to share, and really ingraining like this is really important. And then slowly but surely, as your mission changes, you change as a company, right? So that was kind of that was effectively one of the biggest things I found was the importance of that. And out of like AddThis and Clearspring came kind of the mission for my next kind of venture. And when I took my leap, one of our investors, I went up to him at a party before I told my brother, which it was very personal for me to leave this company. It was my brother and I were working very closely together. He didn't know. I told like our whole senior staff before he knew, which I think this is the first time I'm saying that publicly. Anyway, so the good thing about it was he comes to me and goes, oh, you finally found that like you need to go like launch and do it. So it was this moment, and it's just like he knew. He said, you can do this and you can go out. And I looked and I was like, what do I want to do? And I looked and I was like, I just want to help people. I want to figure out how can I do something big, right? So I kept going through and like riffing on my mission. Like, what does it mean? Like, what do I want, right? We have this huge company. Like, people are like, why would you leave a big company? You have like this potential of all this money and all this security, and you have like a great place in DC and a great car, and you have like validation. You got floor seats to every game because your investors are awesome. And you're like doing all this cool stuff. Like, what else do you need? Like, there's nothing else in the world, is there? And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I kind of want to do something else. So I sold everything I owned. I left DC, and I went to this place called San Francisco, where like people go to die. I mean, become rock stars. And it was an amazing awakening to see a zillion people. Like, that's possibly hyperbole. And by that I mean an understatement. But there's so many people out there who are all trying to effectively change the world in their own way. And it's amazing because you'll meet so many of them, and I think the big thing that I learned, the thing that's kept me going, so I left in, I think it was October of 2010, so that was 4 years ago. And I didn't immediately start what I'm working on. I was working on other things and kind of going through. The first thing I actually built was something that looked a lot like Pinterest, and then they came out, and I was like, no, I'm not going to compete with a company just as exploding on the up curve, when we called it pinning, which was just looked like a complete clone. It was one of the most ironic things in the world, or not ironic, coincidental. So I kept working on it, but what kept me going was this idea, this mission, an idea in which to me was like, it came out very simply, and it was something that started with AddThis, and it was what got me into Clearspring, which was, I really want to democratize the human voice. I want to make it easy for any person in the world to be heard. I think it's too difficult. I thought search, we thought search was the answer. Actually, back in the day, we thought BBS and Usenet was the answer. Then it got too big, and it didn't work, it didn't scale. Then we thought search was the answer. And then we thought there was the answer in kind of social networks for something that would take us to the next scale. And now we're starting to find that's not really it. So we have Dig, and we have Reddit, and we have these kind of interest-based networks, but what's the future? And that's really what I'm looking at. I'm trying to look at that mission. And yeah, I didn't come here to just like pitch my product, but I just want to say that the only way you can do that, like go for that long on something and go heads down, is if you really believe in something bigger. And that's the most important thing. Whether you're starting a company or you're painting a picture or any creative endeavor, I actually really recommend a book on art for anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur or an artist. It's called The War of Art. I think it's by Ray Bradbury. Can anyone call me out on that? Is that true? Is that Ray Bradbury? Who wrote that? Do you remember? Because I just remember the name of it like as I was up here. Okay, anyone have that Google thing? Look it up and tell me, I'll tell you back, and we'll fix my thing, and the internet will know. Who? Stephen Pressfield, everyone. Thank you, Jason. Is that right? Jason corrected me. Write that down. Anyway, Art of War, amazing, amazing book. And one of the most amazing things about that book, you don't like it? Oh, sorry. War of Art, sorry. Art of War is, yeah, Sun Tzu, sorry. I love this. I love you guys correcting me because it's so much better because I make mistakes all the time, which is also something I learned. I'm not perfect. It's crazy. No, but seriously, how many people think they are? Anyone? But we worry about it all the time, right? Anyway, so the long and short of it was, that was kind of, one of the most interesting things I found was, in all creative endeavors, we have this issue of like dealing with resistance and dealing with like, basically that little crazy person in your head that says you can't do something. And if you listen to entrepreneurs talk, it's like really self-serving and annoying because they're talking to you like you're in their world, or like you care about what they're talking about, or you care about whatever they're building. And you don't, and you shouldn't, because it doesn't matter. Like honestly, to most people, none of what we're doing matters. Until it really matters. Like it doesn't, I always say to people, like you're not famous until you're famous. Like it doesn't matter. Like why are you worrying about this stuff? So what you should focus on, or what you can look at from everything, what you can pull from everything is really like the why. Like why are you doing it and how does this apply to me? And I think that's like one of the most important things that makes you more empathetic. And I actually would say out of all the takeaways of like my whole journey, I went from being someone who was very like, well, analytical and believed there was a right answer to things, to realizing that that's the stupidest thing in the world. Like it's like the root of all evil is like thinking there needs to be a right answer. And just saying like, it's cool, like it doesn't matter. There is a solution, and I'm not saying this about like all moral issues and whatever. Whoever's thinking that is wrong, and there is a right to that one. And I'm right. Anyway, but truth be told, like that's one of the greatest things you can learn. It's like perfectionism sort of mindset. It's not a reality. And along those lines, you have to kind of get over yourself and realize that failure defines moments, not lives. So those two kind of like battling things are really important to remember. Because we think that like all these things last way longer than they do.